it's Chini11 and I'm finally back with another video. This is a bit different from my usual videos because today I'll be talking about my experience with creating a webcomic and self-publishing it online. This video serves as a note to myself for handling future projects, but you may also refer to it as tips for making a webcomic as well. Although this is coming from a first-time webcomic creator, I'll be talking about how I handled things on my own in my first year of creating a webcomic. To begin, let me tell you a bit about how my webcomic CHRONOS came to be. I had the idea for the concept back when I was in grade 9. I was fascinated by the idea of time traveling after watching YouTube videos and reading articles on the internet about the topic. So I thought, why not make my own story that focuses on time travel and then mix that with romance and high school life? And thus, CHRONOS was born. After I had the concept in mind, I started designing the characters and creating drafts of the first pages for the comic, but then I had to focus on school for a while and sort of set the project aside until I picked it up again last year. I looked through my old sketchbook where the concept of CHRONOS was in, so I decided to develop that idea again. So I developed the story and characters, tweaking the original that I had in mind, and then I also drew some drafts again for the first pages of the webcomic. One of my classmates then saw my drawings for the pages and read them, and she wanted to know how the story continues, so that encouraged me to actually start creating my webcomic. I used the whole period of my summer last year, which was about 5 months, I think, before I began my first year of college, to work on my webcomic because I saw it as an opportunity to work on both my storytelling and art skills since I enrolled in a degree for animation. So the first thing that I learned from my experience is it's a learning process. You won't come up with a masterpiece on your first try, and that's alright. When I first started, I have to admit that my art wasn't very good and I didn't know what direction the story was going after publishing the first few chapters. But since I began college, I've been exposed to lots of artists who share the same passion for creating art and storytelling, and that experience motivated me to keep on improving how to tell my story and the way that I draw. Up until now, I keep learning new techniques that help in my storytelling and creating art after having the time in quarantine, where I keep on finding more inspiration to continue my webcomic, such as watching anime or films and even listening to music. The second thing that I've learned is to keep a journal for your ideas. Before creating the webcomic, I planned for the concept, the characters, and what the goal for the story was, and why it needs to happen in the universe of my characters. I kept these ideas in a sketchbook where I drew character profiles and drafts for my chapters, but that wasn't enough. I didn't have a single place to write my ideas, so instead I scattered them all in my phone's notes app. But I realized that it wasn't really effective, so I decided to transfer these notes into a journal recently. This way it'll be more organized and I can just pick the notebook up whenever I want a reference for how the story will flow based on my characters' personalities recorded in the notebook. Keeping a journal will make planning for a story easier because you can test your ideas in it, and if it doesn't work, then you can just replace it with another idea that fits with the story. Also, let me just emphasize that planning is very important because coming from my experience, I didn't thoroughly plan some of my chapters, thus resulting to them being somewhat out of place from the main story and kinda confusing. I even got an idea recently for the other characters in my story, but I reread my earlier chapters and realized that I've already established those characters with that kind of personality. Now, I'm having a difficulty to incorporate my recent idea with those characters because I don't want to throw them away and leave them as a plot hole. To cut it short, make sure you know how you want your story to flow before you actually publish it to prevent inconsistencies in the story. The third thing that I've learned is quality over quantity. Self-publishing is difficult, especially if it's just one person doing all the work. As soon as I published my first chapter, I made a schedule for myself to continually publish a chapter every week, and I did, until I was really exhausted and burnt out. It was difficult to continually plan and produce a chapter within a week just to be able to follow my own publishing schedule. This routine led to my paneling, art, and even story to look rushed. Looking back at it now, I didn't really like it. I didn't like how I handled the first few chapters. But like I said earlier, it's a learning process. I realized my mistake and took a break from creating the webcomic, and now my publishing schedule is inconsistent, but I use the time in between publishing chapters to rest and develop ideas for the next chapter so that when I publish it, it won't turn into something that I dislike again. To my fellow artists, please take care of yourselves and don't overwork yourself. Rest when you feel exhausted and don't pressure yourself too much. After all, there's always tomorrow to finish that project. Lastly, just do it. You won't really know how things will go if you don't try, right? If there's a story you want to tell and share to the world, then go for it. No one is stopping you. If there are people that try to bring you down, don't mind them, but also be open to feedback from others. These also help you improve your skills and just continue learning, improving, and most importantly, keep on doing your best. That's all that I have to say for now. I don't really know how many people out there are willing to listen to these kinds of things, but I really enjoy sharing about my processes on how I create art and develop stories. If you enjoyed this video, I can create more stuff like this. Just comment it down below. Also, if you want to add anything to what I've said in this video, please also comment it. Maybe it can help other artists too. Anyways, if you're interested in reading CHRONOS, you may check the link in the description down below. You can also take a look at my Instagram where I post more art and share my behind the scenes processes through the story feature. So yeah, that's all for now. Thank you for watching and I'll see you in my next video!